Welcome, everyone. Episode 20 of Chirping Zebras. Mark Riley alongside Gino Binder Jr. Coming to you from AOA Studios in Beverly, the best place to tape a podcast or a record or anything you want to do. And before we get into it, we want to thank our signature sponsor, Referee's Crease, your one-stop shop for any refereeing needs.
We got the Chowder Cups coming up. That'll be big July, so if anybody's interested in those, please reach out. We got the last 3 weeks. We got the Women's Beantown coming up. We got a big summer, big recruiting. So
a lot of games.
A lot of hockey in the summer.
A lot of hockey. What else we have coming up? July 12th up at Wicked Funny Comedy Club in the China Blossom in North Andover. July 12th, we're going to do a live podcast taping and also a comedy show right after. And get this, not only is Todd Angeli going to be there to sing the national anthem, we have John Carter coming on as a guest on the podcast, former Bruin, John Carter. We have
great penalty killer.
We have Tony V and Paul Nardizzi, national headliners, to do the comedy show. They're going to join us.
It's a monster show.
I'm hosting the thing. Josh Dolan, our producer, will be on that comedy show.
So you're just hosting the thing. You're not actually doing your bit.
Oh, I'll do my bit. Oh, I'll do the bits.
So like when you host, you just get up there and just kind of like that guy did the other night with the scally. But
yeah.
You're not going to be as drunk.
Well, yeah. I probably because I haven't drank in 18 and a half years. But this is going to be a great night. We're going to have tons of fun. We're going to have merch giveaways. We're going to have, it's just going to be, start to finish. It's going to be a great night. So we want you to join us July 12th at Wicked Funny North Andover at the China Blossom. And they have the world-famous buffet.
Route 125?
Route 125, yes.
I know
Route 125.
Right
the old man knew right where it was, too.
It's right across from the Lawrence Airport.
Yeah, Lawrence Airport.
So if you have to jump ship and get out of there quick.
Is that the airport where Blanche's, the plane flew into Blanche's?
Oh, remember that?
We
talked about that on episode 4.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. And might as well, before, we might as well bring our guest on already, jumping right in. A legend in many different facets in the world of refereeing and the world of hockey. One of a person that we both, have tremendous respect for. And recruited me to play at Curry College and then left.
There's a
Bill
reason.
Stewart.
Bill
Stewart, welcome to Chirping Zebras.
Good evening. It's great to be here with the Chirping Zebras.
Right on. Thanks for having
fabulous.
me. Thanks for coming.
I joke all the time. You told me to come to school and then you bolted.
Yeah, it just, there was because I was a full-time probation officer, I was a part-time college hockey coach, 6 years at Curry. And at the time, my wife was a flight attendant with Eastern Airlines, and my dad and my mother were our babysitters. So they used to come up to the house in the morning. When I was at Curry, we had that 6:30 practice in the morning, etc.
Awful.
So
we had
awful. Personally, it was in the summer of April of '87. We were down at the college coaches convention or the hockey coaches convention in Florida, and my father confided in me. He said, "I don't think I'll be around by Christmas time." He was sick. He was suffering from Paget's disease, which is bone cancer. Hunched his back and disfigured him. And he said, "I don't think I'll make Christmas." And so what I had planned on doing was I was going to take the year off and figured just spend time with my dad because he was slowing down. My wife was still a flight attendant, and right in the middle and it actually had signed a contract with the Washington Capitals to scout. I was just going to referee and scout when my wife was home, so taking care of the kids because my kids were small, and then Washington hired me to scout, so they brought me out to the draft in '87. And Glenn Wesley was drafted by the Bruins that year. We were in the Joe Louis Arena. And the night before the draft, we had a meeting in the hotel room, and Dave Poyle was the general manager of the Capitals, good guy, and his dad was involved with the Flyers, and all the scouts from Washington were around, and they had reams of reports on kids that they had seen all over the country, internationally, et cetera, et cetera. And the files were like New York phone books, thick with information. And so I'm just watching. They said, you just watch and kind of get the the lay of the land, so you figure out how to move. So the next day we go down we're sitting at the table, and everybody's anticipating the draft coming up, the first pick, et cetera, et cetera. Dave Poyle is sitting at the end of the table, and a phone rings, and he picks it up. And he said, okay, it's all set, we'll do it. And he hangs the phone up. And then he announces, we just traded the first round pick. We just picked up Dale Hunter from Quebec. So Gaétan Duchesne is going to Quebec with the first round draft pick, but we get Dale Hunter. So they said,
Wow.
all that work out the door meant nothing. Okay, all those miles, those reports. And I said, are you serious? He said, that's pro hockey, et cetera, et cetera.
That's
so,
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
that
how
was my
Dale Hunter-
introduction into professional hockey.
You get to know the scouts as a referee a lot. 'Cause
Oh, yeah,
they sit around the rinks.
Yeah.
Because like I remember sitting around and going up to them. Like they'd be up in the Vermont tournament, then you see them down in the Connecticut tournament, then you see the same guys.
I used to see, and they were good guys. And
They were honest, too.
always, UVM, they'd say, that was good, this was good, we like that, we don't like that, et cetera, et cetera. And they'd see the kids. They'd say, what do you think? It was the scout who said, what do you think of that kid? Because I saw him talking to you.
Yes.
How does he act?
Yep. Well,
I said, he's a pretty good kid, like Eric Perrin and Monty St. Louis up in Vermont.
Yeah.
Dave Patterson at UVM, whose father played at Cornell when my father was refereeing. So I said, good kid. He's polite, he works hard, never says boo. Marty would whine a little. Marty St. Louis would whine a little bit. And as I said to him, really? He said, yeah, they're beating you up. Uh-huh. I said, do you know why? I said, the same thing my father said to Richie Hebner back in the 60s. I said, they're on you because you're good. Mm-hmm. You have to expect it.
right.
And he went, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And obviously had a great career, now the coach of the Montreal Canadiens.
That's awesome.
But Mike Gilligan was the head coach at UVM. Anyway, so that's how I ended. So
See, all this time, I just thought you didn't want to coach me.
no, it was a thought.
All about me.
It was a thought.
No, but you did coach one of my favorite people that I ever played with, Fred Hooley at Curry.
Freddie the franchise, 265 points in 4 years. Offensively, he did things offensively, as my father used to say, and I valued his opinion. He said, they don't make them like they used to, but Fred's like they used to make them.
Yeah.
I said, he was an offensive player. He was a great offensive player. And he'd score goals that I never saw. I saw people in Division I for all the years that I refereed and watched my dad work. He scored goals that the pros would score, college guys would score, and it was normal. It was absolutely just part of his game.
Yeah.
He scored for my best story with Freddie. He was also, Curry was a perfect fit for him because there's the PAL program for kids with learning disabilities. Freddie came out of Belmont High. He was such a nice kid at Belmont High, they socially promoted him through high school. Okay, just because he was a great kid, a great player, and they don't expect much of him.
Right.
So all of a sudden, he's playing for the South Shore Braves. Paul O'Sullivan was the coach. He said, could you help this kid out? He said, you have a program? I said, yeah, we do. Would he be interested? Yeah, but talk to his mom, because she was very careful of him, because she didn't want him used.
Right.
So I said, I'm not worried. In fact, I had refereed a couple of games when he played at Belmont High. I said, for Skippy Vignerolo and Dante Mazzioli, and I said, yeah, we'll have him tested. So I had him tested, and it turns out he was fine. He was fine. He could do the work. And I said, here's the deal. I said, I want the best thing he can do, and I said this the night he was inducted into the Curry Hall of Fame, in which he should have been.
Yes.
He was an automatic. 4 years, All-Stars, MVP, et cetera, et cetera. I said, the greatest thing I saw Fred Hooley do was walk down the aisle and get a diploma. I said, because nobody thought he'd do it.
Right.
And he did.
Awesome.
He did. And every 6 months, he calls me.
Really?
To the day. He's like Rain Man. Every 6 months.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Coach, you're watching the Cup. What do you think of this one? What do you think of that one? And we'll talk for half an hour on
awesome.
players. So, as my wife said, he's your second son. And I said, yes, he is. I said, but that's not a bad deal. But so when UMass called and said, we'd like to talk to you about taking over the job. And at that point, Kevin Duggan was going to take over Curry for a year. I said I was just going to help out, go over when I could. And then UMass called and offered me the job. So I went to my dad, and I said, what do you think? He said, well, you've done a great job at Curry, and you're a good coach, and blah, if this is what you want to do, which is the time I did.
Yep.
I said, yeah, okay, I'll take. So I left to go to UMass because I had my own rank, 3:30 to 5:30. As it turned out, it turned into a mistake because it was tough to coach there because of stuff, people.
Yeah.
We opened up, the second year I was there, we opened up with RPI, with Mike Odessa, invited us out to play.
Oh, yeah.
Odessa, yeah.
Somebody said, I said, I don't care if I win or lose. It's not, it's playing RPI.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay?
National champs, right?
Yeah. They said, we're going to play this one, Abner, Joe Juno and Abner, et cetera. So we're playing RPI. I don't care. So, and as it was, we lost 8-4, but we were ahead 2-0, and I was doing a Night Dream of Genie trying to blink with it.
Get the clock down.
Walk up nice and slow.
Yeah.
Need a night train.
Yeah. So at the coaches convention, and again in 1990, Ricky Schaefer was the head coach of Notre Dame, and he said he invited us, UMass Boston, out to play Notre Dame. He said because my dad, in 1940, along with a gentleman by the name of Angelo Bertelli, who was the Heisman Trophy winner from Springfield Cathedral in 1943,
Wow.
founded the Notre Dame hockey program on St. Mary's Lake. So because they had their roots, in 1966, when they went varsity, he got offered, Moose Krause was the AD at Notre Dame, and he offered him the job, but we had just moved into my grandfather's house, and I was still in high school, Paul was coming up, Jimmy was coming, et cetera, so he turned it down. So Ricky Schaefer invited us out to Notre Dame to play. And I said, great, we're going to give you X amount of money. You have to come. It's going to cost you the school 10. How much are we getting? Well, we had a golf tournament. 95 Boston State hockey players played in the golf tournament because they're going to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So when I went in the athletic department, I said, how much are we getting? And they said, none. Zip, zilch, nada, nothing. So what are we going to do? Well, you're going to run a raffle. Okay, and you're going to get gifts, and then you're going to run a raffle, and we'll have them sign a waiver that says that even though they sell tickets, that doesn't guarantee them a spot on the plane, spot on the team or a place on the plane. So I said, okay, and then I'm going to collect the money and then cut 30 of them because they had 56 kids coming out for hockey. When I started, I had 20 skaters and 7 goalies. All right, and now I got 56 kids coming out, and I'm going to have them sell tickets for 6 weeks and then collect the money and cut them. And I said, absolutely won't do that.
Right.
I said, take out of my salary what we don't make. They said, you're not being very cooperative. I said, you're right. You're damn right I'm not being cooperative. I'm not going to do that. So they cut my salary and put me on probation for lack of cooperation with the athletic department. So I sent back a counter proposal. I wanted a $1,000 raise in a parking spot. And I was gone the next day. Okay? And
they gave up a chance to go to Notre Dame.
they went. They went
Oh, they
anyway.
did?
Yeah, they went. Dick Bradley, who left Westwood High, took over the team, and whatever. He took the team to Notre Dame. We had a great trip planned. I had 25 tickets to the Penn State Notre Dame game because I said when they offered us the trip, I said to Ricky Schaefer, tell Coach Holtz that Bill Stewart's son would like 25 on the 50 for the Penn State game. And Ricky Schaefer called me back. He said, Coach Holtz said, quote, it'll be a pleasure to meet the son of an outstanding Notre Dame alumnus and one of the great high school football coaches in the world, in the history of high school football. You'll take 25 where he puts you. So I said, okay. All right, so I had extra tickets because I knew the referees, everything was working, and then they threw that monkey wrench in, so I walked. As it turned out, life hands you a lemon and you squeeze it. When I went back into the courthouse, my boss said, well, now you can concentrate on your job full time. And at the time, the gangs were just starting in Boston. I started a program, drive around at night, do curfew checks called Operation Nightlight. And then we did another thing, Operation Ceasefire. We'd bring the kids into the court, and tell them, here, we want to play fair. Here's the system. Everybody up the front of this room you're going to run into. This one, this one, this one. And this guy's the U.S. Attorney General. Tell him how much time you can get for possession of a bullet. All right? If you have a record like Freddie Cardoza from the Humboldt Raiders, who was 6 feet long. And he said, quote, felon in possession of ammunition, Freddie got 19 years, 7 months for possession of 1 bullet, no gun. So what we said to the kids, okay, who's next?
Right.
What do you want to do?
Gave them the answers to the test.
It's your call. And the idea being, we're not picking on you. We're trying to help you from being, I'd rather see you home than in jail, but I'd rather see you in jail than dead.
Right.
Those were the kids on the street in the 90s in Boston. So, and it really wasn't a case of black or white. It was a case of right or wrong.
Right.
Because as I said, I grew up in the streets. Mm-hmm. My dad was a high school football coach, hockey coach, baseball coach. And for the summer, he used to deliver equipment to the gym, to the playgrounds. So what do they build playgrounds for? So kids will play in them. Mm-hmm. So I'd drive around Dorchester or Roxbury and Mattapan, and they'd be empty. And that aggravated me. It made me mad. I said, why? Because there's a gang that just put their
turf sign up.
Okay? So what I used to do, if we revoke Riley's probation that day, I'd go up to the corner, walk and don't walk, and I had a can of orange fluorescent paint, and I'd go up and put an X through his name on the wall. And just say to the guy, anybody, who's next? Put your hand up. Okay? Wow. And they said, whoa, the idea being, as I used to say, when I'd go to a house, and we were obviously conscious because the kids I was working with were African-American, they were minorities. And as a mother said to me on Wilcox Street one night, I don't like white people coming to my house. And I said, you know what? I don't like white people coming to my house either. But there's 2 reasons I'm here. One, because your son's on probation. If he wasn't, I wouldn't be here. I would be home with my own kids. All right? The second reason I'm here is I would prefer to see him home with you than in jail, but I'd rather see him in jail than dead. When he went out, did he say, good night, I love you, I'll be home. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock when he's in my office, that's the first thing I'm going to do is teach him to respect you. Now, could you show me his room, please? I don't need a warrant, but show me the room. I'd go in and make his bed and turn the blankets down and leave my card and a lifesaver on the pillow. So he'd come home to the Red Roof Inn. So that was my full-time job. And then transfer it to the football field that I refereed football, or the hockey rink where I coached or refereed. It was an easy, logical progression. It was a way to work out.
Now, you coached at UMass. I believe you coached another, talk about Freddie Hooley, one of my favorite people. Bubba McNeese, I believe, played for you at UMass
Bubba McNeese,
Boston.
I've known Bubba since he was at Canton with Marco Crignelli.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
All right.
Bubba.
My first girlfriend was from Canton, and that's how I met Bubba back in high school. And, we got back in touch through Paul Nardizzi, actually.
All right.
And Bubba and I, it's hilarious. All I text him is dude, because he says dude all the time.
Dude all the time.
Dude.
And now he's in the federal, he was a federal officer.
Yes.
Et cetera. So he's there. The first year I'm there, Robert Bubba McNeese is there. Okay. And he's stubborn.
Yeah.
Right? He's giving me that stubborn. So we were up playing Salem State. All right. And he's grousing and he's bitching and he's moaning, et cetera, et cetera. And I keep saying, I say, Robert, are you serving cheese with your wine? Okay, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. I'm transferring. I said, I'll drive you to the bus. Okay, you want to go? Go ahead, go. Blah, blah, coach. I'll coach my butt, et cetera, et cetera. So he scores the winning goal against Salem State. It was the first time UMass Boston had beaten Salem State. I said, Bobby McNeese was the reason. He scored the winning goal. Since then, we had a meeting of the mind. So I said, why do you bother wearing a helmet? He said, I have to. I said, well, you're putting plastic on cement. Okay. So
that's delicious.
Coach, this is what I said. Go along with the flow here. Well, stick with me, et cetera, et cetera. And he did. And he became a coachable kid, a great player, and I had a good time coaching him, and
Yeah.
to this day we're still, when I see him, we're still friends.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
Yeah,
Great guy.
And that's half the idea of being. And I learned that from being the son of my dad passed in '87, and I've got stories of people I run into. One, if I can, is
Absolutely.
2004. I had a hip replacement, and I had trouble. I went septic, and I was in the hospital. I was in Beth Israel and Needham, and I was in trouble. I had infections, and I had IVs, and they put me in cold baths, et cetera, et cetera. And I told my wife, I said, I'm so sick. I'd put the gun in my mouth if I had my gun with me, blah blah blah, and because I was just so, I had never been that sick, and a priest comes in, Father, and he said, I understand you're having a hard time. I said, yeah, I am, Father. I can't take it. He said, what's your name? I said, Bill Stewart, Father. He said, where are you from? I said, I live in Dedham. He said, where'd you grow up? I said, Boston. He said, what's your father's name? I said, Bill Stewart Jr. What did he do? I said, well, he was a high school coach at English High School, football, hockey, and baseball official. What's your grandfather's name? I said, Bill Stewart Sr. What did he do? I said, well, he refereed in the National Hockey League. He coached the Blackhawks and the Empire in the National Baseball League, et cetera, et cetera. He said, really? He puts his hand on my shoulder, and he said, Phil Macy was safe at second base. And I said, you're right. It was the eighth inning of the first game of the 48 World Series, Braves and the Indians. Bob Feller was pitching, and he and Lou Boudreau, who was the second baseman, had a silent pickoff. And he'd scratch his chest or scratch the eye or whatever, and then just Feller would turn and throw the ball, and Boudreau would be there. So Macy was off. He dived back, and instead of putting the ball down, he reached out. And my grandfather was 6 feet away, and right away called him safe. Didn't hesitate. And Boudreau kicked a little bit. Tommy Holmes hit a single, and Macy scored, and Feller lost the game 1-0. So he blamed my grandfather for never winning a World Series game. So he was on the radio one night, and he was berating my grandfather, and because he didn't win, 48, he blew the call, and they lost the game. So I called. I think it was Guy Manila calling all sports at the time. So I said, Mr. Feller, outstanding career. You were, obviously you were a veteran, USS Alabama during the war, and a great career in Cleveland pitching, et cetera, all you did. But let's talk about 48. I said, a couple of questions. I said, one, first of all, you lost the game 1-0. It's kind of hard to win a game if you don't score any runs. Mm-hmm. Okay? 2, you blame the umpire for not winning a World Series game. You had another chance in 48 and 2 in 54. You didn't win then either. Okay?
Chirping Bob Feller.
Okay, et cetera, et cetera. So he said, you seem to know a lot about it. I said, well, I want to introduce myself. My name is Bill Stewart III. Okay? My grandfather was, oh, your grandfather. And I said, I know it, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, the next day, he kind of quieted down, but he blew the call. I said he never said he did. He never admitted. He never admitted. I know he never admitted, because I was with him the day before he passed away in 1964. He said never admitted to blowing the call. And I ran into an old Red Sox player who lived around the neighborhood I was in, and he said, I heard you on the radio last night. He said, what fella? He said, screw him. I said, I can't say that. I said,
right.
Obviously, I said, I don't have the sea legs to say that. But
that's awesome.
The beauty of sports, and it's an indication of the beauty of sports, because the experiences that we all have, you guys have, I've had, refereeing and the people you run into, et cetera, and the contacts and the stories and the characters that you meet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it just crosses lines and crosses centuries and decades, et cetera. So I'm gifted because I grew up listening to my grandfather talk about the Gas House Gang in St. Louis back in the 30s, talking about Leo DeRocha, who he hated, et cetera, Jackie Robinson, or Dizzy Dean, pitching both ends of a doubleheader, and in St. Louis it was 102 on the field, and he threw nothing but fastballs. Dizzy, et cetera, et cetera. And then he'd tell me about the Chicago Blackhawks when he coached the Blackhawks and won the Stanley Cup. Our games he refereed the New York Americans and the New York Rangers, and there was a lot of money on the game because the New York mob bet heavily on the game, and he made a call that the Americans won the game over the Rangers, and they lost a lot of money. So he had a friend of his who was a New York detective, Tommy Laughlin, who had him moved from hotel to hotel because
The mob was after him.
Yeah.
Wow. And your grandfather, I mean, talk about legends, right? He was the first American to do not just referee in the NHL, but to coach in the NHL.
He got hired. His whole, as a matter of fact, I hate to see it. I hate to see it go. But with the closing of Matthews Arena now,
Right.
Yeah, I grew up. I mean, so many of us grew up in that building. I grew up in it with my English high school football and my dad's team. My grandfather, in the winter of 1919, 1920, was hired by George V. Brown, who was Walter Brown's father. He was an assistant manager of the building, and that's where he learned how to skate and play. And there, he was a goalie for one of the pickup teams. I got a picture of him in the hallway with those 1920 goalie pads on. But that's where he learned. 4 years later, he was refereeing in what was the forerunner of the American League called the Canadian American League, Can-Am League.
Can-Am, yeah.
Okay. And then in 1928, he got hired to referee in the National Hockey League. He was the first American to get hired, the first American referee. At the same time he was doing that, multitasking, he was also the hockey coach at Milton Academy, MIT, and Radcliffe.
What?
3 teams at once.
Coaching 3 teams at once and refereeing in the NHL.
National Hockey League. Yes. Okay.
That's just mind blowing.
That's how he did it.
Yeah.
And back in those days, there was only 6 teams in the league, and then they went to 8 when he was a coach of the Blackhawks, and they beat Toronto in the finals. April 12th, 1938 was the last game. I said, now it goes to June or whatever.
Yeah.
But there were 8 teams in the league: Montreal Maroons, Montreal Canadiens, New York Americans, New York Rangers, Detroit, Chicago, New York, and Boston. So it was 2 4-team divisions, et cetera, et cetera. And then they got rid of the Americans, and the Maroons folded. So it was down to 6. So when they call it the original 6 was actually the original 8.
Right.
You know. But he got hired. So the owner of the Blackhawks was a Major Frederick McLaughlin, who was a major in paper only, because I think he wanted to be a major, so they made him a major, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And he was watching a game over. The Cubs were playing the Brooklyn Dodgers, and Grandpa made a call, and actually Frankie Frisch was the coach of the Chicago Cubs. Fordham Flash, Frankie Frisch, the Fordham Flash. Anyway, Grandpa unloaded him out of the game, and Major McLaughlin has been reported, said, that's the guy I wanted to coach my Blackhawks. So that's when he got hired. So he signed a 2-year contract in 1937. He made 2 years, and it said for $6,500 a year to coach the Blackhawks. And he won the cup. They were the worst team. They were the worst team. They had the worst record of any team going in the playoffs. But they made the playoffs just by virtue. They 1 point more than, I think, Detroit at the time. So he got in, and the first game they played the New York Americans, and then they ended up playing Toronto in the finals. And there's a story there, which is what's great about the history. His goalie was a guy named Mike Caracas, who was from Eveleth, Minnesota, who later went to live in Providence. Good guy. Mike was a good guy. Anyway, he broke his toe in the last game against the Rangers, and he couldn't put a skate on. So back then, they got the rights to a guy named Paul Goodman, who was a goalie. And then Conn Smythe reneged on the deal, wouldn't let him use Paul Goodman in the first game in the 38 playoffs. So Grandpa went over to Maple Leaf Gardens, and he and Conn Smythe literally had a fist fight. Oh yeah. Back
The
that's
MVP.
what they.
He
That's
just
what
beat
they,
up the MVP.
Yeah, that's what they did. Okay,
That's how you solve problems back in the day. Yeah.
That's
well,
right.
back in those days when he was refereeing, there was the chicken wire went along the goal line, from goal line to goal line, and there was nothing along the sides.
Yeah, no
Right,
glass.
yeah, there's
stands.
no glass.
There's videos
whatsoever.
of guys
so
grabbing
you could
them.
lean over.
Yeah.
Right.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Grab him by the sweater.
So he was working a game down in down in New York one night, and a guy reached out and grabbed him as he was refereeing. Now, he was 5'6", but he had a 46, 48-inch chest, barrel-chested, and he knew how to box. So he pulled the guy out of the stands, out on the ice, boom, bangs him.
As the referee.
Oh, he's a referee. Bangs him.
Something we all would
Yeah.
love to do
Oh,
it
yeah.
someday.
Oh, of course you would.
Grab a parent, pull him
Oh,
out.
yeah,
or
pull
Well,
him
that's why
right
they got glass now.
Yeah, that's
Right?
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he pulled the guy out on the ice. He cold cocked him with the whistle, bang, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the only other, my father would tell me the story. He was with him up in Montreal one night, and Montreal, something happened in the game, and the fans were out at the gate waiting for him to come out. So what my grandfather did is he gave my father this bag to carry. I said, and he put a skate in each hand. He walked out with my father behind him carrying the bag and a skate in each hand. I said, that's old-time hockey,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. And he
Yeah,
sure
it
did
is.
clapper. Anyways, they won the cup, and Alfie Moore, they got the rights to a guy named Alfie Moore, who had never played a game in the National Hockey League. He was going to be their goalie. No, Alfie
In the
was
Stanley Cup Finals.
Okay, Alfie was in Toronto, they think. They weren't sure, so they went out to find him. And he had been sitting in a bar all day, all right? So
Didn't have a cell phone.
when they brought him back,
Yeah, no cell
cell
phones.
phones. That's so far in the future. So when they brought him back to Maple Leaf Gardens, and when they walked him in the locker room. My grandfather said, "He's not playing. I'll play." And they said, "No, no. He's going to go in." So they put him in the shower, sobered him up, went out on the ice. The first shot Toronto took scored. And he shut them out the rest of the way. They won the first game 3-1. Alfie Moore never played another game in the National Hockey League.
He had one game.
Okay, he had
Shit-faced.
Yeah, one game, and he was, et cetera, et cetera. But that's what what happened way back then.
Wow.
So the next year, in January, he walked in. They were equally as mediocre. And he walked into the office in Chicago, and Major McLaughlin said, "You're fired." So he said, "Okay." So he went down, immediately took my grandmother down to Clearwater Beach. And they said it was the first time he had been to spring training because he was at the same time an umpire in the National Baseball League. First time he got to spring training on time. There. So,
That's funny.
I still can't get over the fact that he had hired to coach the Blackhawks by the owner watching him umpire a baseball game.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's just...
Well,
It's
Major
incredible.
McLaughlin was a patriot. He loved America. That's why half of the Blackhawks were Americans. Earl Siebert was from Springfield. Mush March, Cully Dahlstrom, Doc Romnick, et cetera. They were from Minnesota, Eveleth, and places like that. Earl Siebert was from Springfield. Mike Caracas, as I said, from Eveleth. So half of the team was American and half was Canadian. So he was a pro. If he could have done All-American, he would have. But, that whatever.
That'll never happen in the
Yeah,
NHL.
so when the one year I was working for the Capitals, and went out to the '87 draft, and they had the cup out there, and it was the first time I got to see his name on the Stanley Cup, which I thought,
cool.
yeah, and since then, because they have they take the band off, and they nail it to the wall in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I told Scotty Morrison when he was the head, I said, that's crap.
Yeah.
You do that. I said, they play and coach so they get their name on the cup, not a bank vault wall.
Right.
Et cetera, et cetera. Well, what do we do? I said, get another cup.
Yeah.
Keep the name on the cup. Just start another one. Have two together.
Yeah, right.
Take the cup off, put that on, but you get the foundation, the travel. That's your history.
Right.
All the names, et cetera. Now they're off that, and they're on a wall. All those names from 100 years ago are gone.
Right.
And I said, I think that's not tradition, I think, to me. And I think there's a lot with what we do is about tradition and following tradition and the people that came before you. Like I followed people, you followed me, you guys followed me, and et cetera. My last college game, I worked Gino with your dad.
No kidding.
He was my linesman down at the Air Force Army series down at West Point.
Oh boy.
Yeah, which was a story.
That's an awesome series to have.
Oh, it was
Air Force Army's one of the best series.
Yeah, I ended. That was my Division I career end right there.
That's a pretty good one to go out in.
And I went. I went in, and and they were killing each other. They just physically. You know, I saw Air Force play football. I saw Army play, Navy play football. They just boom, boom, boom. They're in great shape, and they're gonna go.
Oh yeah.
And let them go. I said, let them go. So
play on.
I had West Point Air Force down twice in the third period on penalties, and they won the game. So the second night when I walked into the new rink at West Point, Coach Jack Riley, who known for 100 years, along with all the boys, all his sons, he yelled at me, "You screwed us last night." I said, "How did you let them get away with murder?" I said, "Coach," "Coach." And anytime Coach Riley used to bust my chops, I used to call him Admiral, okay, because he hated the Navy.
Right.
He was a Marine, but he hated the Navy. Okay?
Very good.
So to bust his chops, I'd call him Admiral, et cetera. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That is good.
So then we go out for the second night, and I've got the captains of West Point and the captains of Air Force, and I said, "All right, boys, anything you like to say Air Force?" And the kid from Air Force said, "No, we've got nothing to say. It was great. You did a great job. Thank you." And the kid from West Point, "Well, yeah. And I said, "Don't go there. I already know what you're going to say. I let Air Force get away with murder, right?" He said, "Yeah, we think so." I said, "I got a question for you. Isn't that what you guys are trained to do?" So I said, "You think if I called nothing last night, nothing, even less tonight, this is my last Division I game, and I want to go out on a no-hitter."
Yeah.
Okay? As it turned out, it didn't. I couldn't. It was got a little rocky. But West Air Force won again. So the coach at Air Force, I think his name was Stereator, I think.
Frank, he's still there.
Yeah, and he said, can we get you to fly out to Colorado? I said, actually, and I wasn't a great player, but I had a good name. Vic Heiliger was the coach of the Air Force Academy back in the late 60s when I was graduating from Catholic Memorial. He had played for my grandfather on the Blackhawks.
Okay.
So he recruited me, quote unquote, for what it was worth. So I dovetailed a trip to Colorado Springs to be Chip McDonald's godfather, because he was born in
Chippa!
60.
Yeah, Chip.
Who is taking up the mantle, the Stewart mantle of refereeing.
Yeah.
So I went out and I met with Vic Heiliger. I said, I took a rag walking around the prep school out there. Interesting place, but I said, I'm going to last about 5 minutes here, I think, before I'll be out the door, I think, just with the pomp and circumstance. And I said, I don't think this is for me, et cetera. So I didn't go in the service at the time. It was Vietnam, obviously, too. That was problems. But, again, another case of Vic Heiliger played with my grandfather, this one, the connections that you make and the context that you make. I was fortunate in 2005 to be awarded. Jack Renauld was instrumental in giving me the Schaefer Penn Award for contributions to college hockey. For the 4 years I did at Tufts with the club team, which was a story. If you have time, 1977, I did for George Ronan. He was a member of the South Shore chapter. He taught at Holbrook High School. He said, I got a college game for you. What do you got? Tufts and Bentley over at Harvard on the first Monday in February. So I knew it wasn't working the bean pot. All right. So I had the Tufts club team, 36 penalties in the game, 34 on Tufts, 2 on Bentley. All right. Tufts was off the hook, out of control. They were yelling at me. They were screaming, the parents, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just filing people left and right. George is kind of like a deer in the headlights with their acting. So that was the summer of, that was February of 77. And the summer of 77, I was down in Woods Hole. I had a sailboat. I owned a sailboat with a couple of guys, and we kept it behind the Captain Kidd in Woods Hole. And I had some guys out in the boat one day, the O'Brien brothers, Stevie and Russell, and we were sailing over to Martha's Vineyard or whatever out in the harbor, et cetera. And I'm looking at Russell, and I said, this kid looks familiar. And Stevie said, I said, where do you go to school? He said, Tufts. I said, really? I said, do you play anything? He said, play hockey. I said, get off my boat. Get off my boat. I said, do you remember me? He said, Bentley? And he went, oh!
That's awesome.
Okay.
Get off my boat.
Get off my boat. We were out in the middle of, I said it was the year after Jaws was on, so the movie theater.
Good luck.
So he said, hey, we need a coach bad. He said, would you be interested? And at the time, I was a JV coach at Randolph High. So I said, yeah, I could. How much? We can give you $500. I said, that's $1,000 back. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll coach. So I got to coach the Tufts club team for $500. I coached for 4 years. Great kids, still friends with them, still in contact with them, and I went from 77 to 81, and then the Curry job opened up. A guy I work with brought down the paper, and he said, Curry's looking for a coach. Would you be interested? I said, well, Milton at Medford won 3,500 to 500. Yeah, I would be, et cetera. So I walked in, and I had an interview, and Curry was a funny place at the time. It was like a wannabe school, wannabe college team. We're college hockey. We're a varsity team. Who do you play? Mass College of Pharmacy in Gordon. Okay, please. Bunker Hill Community. Okay, all right. Whoa. Okay, all the heavyweights. So I got the job, and I walked in. I walked into the first meeting, and if not for Mark Malika was the captain, Chris O'Hara, and Barry Parker was played. Barry Parker became the head coach at Rockland High School, et cetera, et cetera. But they said, you want to coach? You want to coach? You want to play? I said, well, we're going to run this like a legit college team. So we had a first meeting, and I got the kids, Coach, I can't go to the practice because I have tickets to the Grateful Dead on Monday nights. I said, well, if you go, you will be. Okay. So I said, here's the deal, boys. Your first rule, I have 3 rules. First rule is your hair's going to be, this is 81, so your hair's going to be short so your helmet fits. Safety issue, okay? I said, don't. I said, second rule is no beards. I said, you can have a mustache. This was after Herb Brooks. The Olympics.
Yep.
I said, no beards. And we didn't have any Kenny Morrows, believe me.
Right.
I said, so no beards. And the third rule is my rule, no earrings. And they said, and I said, save it. Save it. I said, I've done Kent State, Cambodia, the May Day Peace Rally, Woodstock. I protested everything with Dr. Spock, down in Washington, et cetera. I said, been there, done that, zip it. Okay? No earrings, because I don't like them. Okay. So the first year I was there, we went 13-6-1. And the year before I got there, they were 3-17. So, and then we just built from there. The team that I left you with, I was down at the coaches convention, and I made a statement. I said, Division NCAA 3. I said, you need the ECAC, East, West, North, South, to justify your national tournament. You got 50 teams, but you don't give 30 of us a chance to get into your tournament, okay? You need our numbers, but you won't give it because of quote-unquote strength of schedule. I said, I'll tell you what, I coach at Curry College. We played Geneseo, we played Canisius, we played Potsdam, we beat this one, this one, this one. I have a pretty good team in Milton. I said, I'll play anybody in this room, anytime, any place. Stevie Hoare turned around and head coach of Plattsburgh because they had just been up there refereeing.
One of the best. Yeah. One of the best.
Oh, absolutely. Rest his soul.
Yeah, God rest his soul,
Rest his soul. But he turned around, he said, I'll play you. I said, you're on. And he said, you want to play Plattsburgh? And I said, yeah. Why? It's a game. It's a game. It's a game. So he said, where do you want to play? He said, we'll play at your place. Canton? He said, yeah. And I know what he was doing. It was a recruiting trip.
Yeah.
Okay? So, and then I left and went to UMass, but I was over there for the game. And after 2 periods, when Curry had tied the score, I left. I said, I've proven my point. All right, Curry can stick with anybody,
with these guys,
et cetera, et cetera. Final score, Plattsburgh 5, Curry 6. And the rest is history.
But then we went up there my sophomore year.
Get whacked.
We went to Plattsburgh, took the
Red-eye.
6-hour
Yeah.
bus ride up there.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, they do a thing there where they go 1, 2, 3, we want 4.
Yeah.
You know, for the goal, the whole crowd is packed.
Yeah.
Packed, right?
Yeah.
And we lost 15-3.
Mm-hmm.
And those bastards, they went all the way up to 15, and we won 16.
That was like us
We're
at
sitting on the
Iona.
bench going, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
We really gonna keep doing this?"
He wanted, there was a point. They were
Yeah.
making a point. And I had refereed the NCAAs up there when Herb Brooks was at St. Cloud, et cetera. And 87, it was 87. And the crowd and the fans and the hockey and the crowd. And I was standing next to the late Sid Watson, good guy, coach at Bowdoin, AD at Bowdoin. And he was saying, this is too much, because it was so outside of NESCAC mentality.
Right.
All right, you know, they had the Bergie, and they had the car, and they had the shooters, and they had the crowd, and and it was just so more than what Bowdoin was ready for, et
Right.
cetera. But it was big. I said, "Why? Look at the crowd. This is great for college hockey at this level." I said, "I worked a BC North Dakota game at BC in Hockey East, the first year of Hockey East, in front of 700 people on a Sunday afternoon. It was 80 out, and there was nobody there. We're playing North Dakota, and I said, they're fighting to get in here to see Plattsburgh play whoever. How
Yeah,
can
that place was a crazy
Yeah,
It
atmosphere.
still is, isn't it?
Crazy atmosphere. And
What else do you do up there?
Well, nothing.
Yeah. If they
nothing
dropped
at
a
all.
bomb on Plattsburgh, there'd be about $5 damage, I think. And
Well, that bus ride back
Yeah.
after that beating,
Yeah.
we took the ferry. We parked the bus on the ferry, took it across the lake
there you go.
because it was supposed to save time. That was just a miserable,
Did you guys
miserable
drink
trip.
on the bus?
I didn't, but I don't think we did.
Yeah, I don't think you
I
did.
don't think
I don't
they
think you
allowed
did.
that.
No, they
no.
didn't.
They didn't allow it, but
No.
we did it though. We
Well,
always
yeah,
drank.
you did. I mean, you
I
did a
can-
lot of things you
I can
weren't
tell.
supposed to do.
We when I was at UMass, the last year I was at UMass, we went up and played Middlebury, and we beat Middlebury, and we came down Route 7, and then you go left on Route 4, and we stopped, and I sent the assistant in, I think Joey Curran. I said, go get a case, et cetera, et cetera. I said, and tell them I don't want to hear a can. I don't want to hear a can. All right, I don't want to hear an empty. All right, we understand each other. I said, you ask the men to be men.
Yep.
Treat them like men.
Right.
So I said that it'll be off the books. Nobody will know. I mean, I'm saying this now,
Yeah.
but it was 19.
Statute of limitations
yeah,
is gone, right?
1990
Oh, yeah.
is over. So you know.
Well, and we should put out
24 years
the
ago.
team you put together, Curry, my freshman year.
yeah,
They went 26-2.
yeah.
We had 24 wins in a row, set 2
Yeah.
NCAA records.
Yeah, yep.
And that was, and God rest Kevin Duggan's soul, it wasn't his team.
No,
that was your team that you put together with Jamie Evans and Ralphie DeLeo and all these,
Ralph, my
guys
pal.
that were just complete characters.
Oh,
I
yeah.
always laugh because back then, I mean, now, last time I.
David Griffin in the net. Frankie
D. Griff.
Armstrong.
We had Chief on D.
Mike
right?
Elrick.
Mike Elrick.
What
that
would
team
happen?
was fantastic.
What would happen, Riley, is when I was refereeing, okay, to recruit a Curry, right? As I said, when you're recruiting at a place like Curry College or any low-level Division III, I said I liken it to. Do you ever go to the beach at 5 o'clock? After everybody's gone, that's when the seagulls take over. they get everything that's left. I said that's.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get the best player here, the best player there. I'm going to get the kid that loves to play, the Glenn Dempsey from Whitman Hanson.
Or like Kevin Joyce.
Oh, the Kevin. Oh, exactly.
Joycey was
Rest
one of the
soul.
best.
Kevin
One
Duff.
of the best.
Kevin
Kevin
Joyce.
Duff, yeah.
Said, what do you need me to do?
Yep.
Do you want to play? Yeah. What do you need me to do? Play. Okay, coach.
Right.
And I said, those are the kids. As I liken them, they said, what did you look for in the players? I said, I would go and referee because I could pick my own games, but I'd go referee a game in December and see somebody playing. And
Yeah, yeah.
Gee, he's a pretty good player. And then I'd go back in February, and he was still playing. I said, that's the kid I want. That's the kid I want. He played as hard in December as he did in February as he did in December. I said, I want that kid to come and play. And as I said, what do you look for? I said, I said, to explain it to people, I said, it's like, I'm not going to get everybody. I'm not going to get the best players. They're going to go to Salem. Plus, Curry was expensive, et cetera. I said, I understand that. I'm going to get the aberrational kid like Freddie Hooley, who had a learning disability. And as I said, I said, I want a team. If you're familiar with that picture of George Washington being rowed across the Delaware,
Yeah.
I said, everybody looks at George Washington, right?
Right.
You look at the guys rowing the boat? No. If they don't row his ass across the river, you have a tea at 5 o'clock and singing Hail to the Queen. Okay. Okay. I said, I want kids that love to play.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I asked. Like, Ralphie, do you want to play? How much do you love to play? Coach, I want to play.
Yeah.
Come on down. I'll use you. I'm going to be tough, which I think my reputation preceded me sometimes.
My coach used to go up to like wherever, go Scout junior games.
Yeah.
And it would be like a Saturday, it would be a September or October before the season started.
Yeah.
And they'd see me come on the ice, like, what the hell are you doing here? I'm like, well, who are you looking at? I'm like, who do you want me to talk to? He's like, oh, talk to 15.
Yeah.
Because you were reffing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be reffing.
Yeah.
And they'd be in the stand scouting with the assistant, and I'm like, hey.
That's what I did.
That was funny,
We
yeah.
recruited, and people would get pissed. They said, he's got an unfair advantage. I said, well, you can referee too.
Yeah, who's stopping
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
No one's
Et cetera,
stopping
et
you.
cetera.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not, I'm not violating any rules. I'm just out in the ice with them, et cetera.
Yep.
It's the thing between my grandfather's experience, my father's experience, the games I saw him referee, the people that played when he worked. When I was growing up, Ned Harkness was Coach Harkness, Coach Kelly at BC, Coach Kelly at BU, Coach Jeremiah at Dartmouth, Coach Siglaski up at Cornell. Up in at Claxon. There was all Coach Murdoch down at Yale. They were all, hi, Coach. Oh, young Bill.
Right.
Et cetera. In fact, Ned Harkness at RPI said the night, December 28th, and I remember it well, my dad did a game with Bobby Barry, and Bobby Barry's son was with us. So it was Bobby Barry's son and I, and my dad and Bobby Barry out to RPI to see RPI in the Christmas tournament. And then Ned Harkness was the coach, and he got me a stick. Trevor Kay was the kid's name who played for RPI. So the next day, I was with my friend, Johnny McCormick, and we were skating at Dorchester Park, and a big kid, went after Johnny and wanted a stick, and I told him to pick on somebody his own size, so he came after me, and so I skated away from him, and he had, the slick back hair and the leather jacket and the checker boots and the whole 9 yards. He slipped in the ice and fell, and his friends laughed at him, and so I get skating into a corner at the Snowball, at the Sugar Bowl on the Adams Street side of Dorchester Park. And he said, give me a stick. And I said, no. And I never saw the knife. I got stabbed. He stabbed me.
Jesus.
156 stitches, 3 weeks in a hospital, and I died on the table, December 29th, 1962.
Holy shit.
Yeah, there you go. For Trevor Kay's stick at Dorchester Park. So growing up, I didn't take my shirt because he ripped my stomach open. I didn't take my shirt off at the beach until I was 24. But life hands you a lemon, squeeze it. When the kids had come into the probation office, and I'd say, where you been? Well, I was home. I got stabbed or I got whatever. How many stitches? 5. And I used to go, baby. Bitch. What do you mean? I said, you're a bitch. 5 stitches? That's whatever. Well, show me a scar. And then I'd lift my shirt up. I said, I was 12. How old were you? 19? Bitch. So what it did was it gave me street cred
Right.
with the kids I was working with.
Yeah.
Who'd been there. So anytime I was out in the street at night or in the homes, if I went through a room and I didn't need, by virtue of the Supreme Court, who says I don't need a warrant to search, I can go into a room 24/7 as a probation, which was a ticket into the back of the police car. If I found a knife, I took the knife. So when I retired in 2016, I brought 2 boxes of knives out to the police academy in Hyde Park and gave them to Nancy Salucci. And I said, do whatever you want to do with them. And they were up sleeved. They were kids that had them taped to their sleeves, and it's all sorts of ingenious stuff. But I said, I don't like knives. If you didn't have a knife, you're a bitch. All right, because you need the knife to fight. Put the knife down.
Yeah, right.
Square up on them, etc. Why? I said, I've been not only a hit club president, I'm a client, et cetera, et cetera. So that was my story. That life handed me a lemon and I squeezed it.
Yep.
An open lemonade stand. The other great story I have, without belaboring this, about hockey and what hockey's done for me, and the places I've been and places I've seen, the people I know, and the contacts I made, and which was the games I saw. I can remember great games. I can remember some lousy games, etc. I can remember my father doing a game at MIT versus Army in the outdoor rink, and he told me to goal judge, and I put my hand on the light, and my fingers froze on the light. It was that cold out because it was an outdoor rink.
Outdoor rink, yeah.
For all the games, I remember this game. I can remember the score of this game, and I remember this guy playing. I remember that guy playing. When they gave me the Schaefer Penn Award, and I went through my experience in college hockey, going back with my dad, and my own experience playing at BC. I scored 2 goals in college. I played at it. I wasn't a player, but I worked. I was Rudy on ice. Okay, so and that was just fine, etc. Long as to quote my other brother, the NHL guy, he said, "Long on desire, short on talent." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "We got hit with the same wand, I think." I said, "But I was doing." My wife, my wingmate, for 46 years now, but in 19, she worked for Eastern Airlines, and Eastern Airlines went out of business. She went back to school and got her degree in nursing, and she got hired at the Leahy Clinic, and she had to go for a physical. When she went in, they did an X-ray, a mammography, and they saw a spot. So she got a call to go into a doctor's office. So we went in, and I picked her up, and the doctor who did the operation, the lumpectomy or whatever, and I said, as he walked by, I said, geez, I know this guy from someplace, et cetera. And she said, you say that about everybody. So we go in his office a week later for a consultation, and his name was Dr. Clinton Kaufman. His office was on Beacon Street in Brooklyn. Distinctive-looking guy you would remember seeing. So hi, Bill Stewart, nice to see you, Father. I'll be going to take your wife in. I'm going to take the stitches out. He said, have a seat in the office. So I was sitting in his office, and I'm looking at his family pictures. And he came back in the office. Hi, Bill, nice to meet you, et cetera. I said, can I ask you, Doctor, you look awful familiar to me, et cetera, et cetera. Those are kids, yeah, where they go to school? Here, and BB&N. I said, maybe that's where I remember you from. Did he play at BB&N? I said, I referee high school and college hockey. He said, yeah, he did. He played for Gene Kanasowicz and Jake Hurdle. And I said, oh, yeah, all those guys, et cetera, et cetera. Jack Etta, Gene Kanasowicz, the circle of friend. Did he? I said, okay. Did he play after that? He said, yeah, he played 1 year, but he got hurt the last game of his freshman year. And I went, really? And I looked at the picture, and I looked back at him and said, March 4th, 1978, second period, number 4 for Harvard freshman, dumped the puck in the zone, got checked into the boards, his stick snapped and went through his thigh. I helped you over the glass at Watson Arena. And he said, that was 19 years ago. How do you remember that? I said,
you don't forget that.
You don't forget that. The stick impaled, went through the fat part of his leg. And I was working with Greg Stone. Ben Smith was coaching at Yale. Bobby Carr was coaching at Harvard. Dickie Emerson said, if you can get hurt at Harvard Yale freshman game.
Yeah,
et cetera, et cetera. So the kid,
there.
I'm wrestling with the kid because he wants me to pull it out. No. And I said, you don't do that, et cetera. So it was my all Ivy day because that night I had the Andover Exeter game. Up in Andover was at Harvard Yale during the day. But afterwards I said, wow, you don't forget that. I said, I
No.
remember his eyes.
Yeah, right,
I
yeah.
remember the kid's eyes.
That's wild.
Because he was absolutely terrified. So now I'm looking at this picture, and it was his eyes
Yeah, right.
that I remembered. And
Wow.
so
What a memory.
now the doctor, Dr. Kaufman, tells my wife she has cancer. She has breast cancer, so she's going to have an operation. So it was a Thursday. He called Friday night. He said, how you doing? I said, well, we just told the kids Mom's going to have an operation. He said, how you doing? I said, I don't know how I'm supposed to be doing. You just told me my wife has cancer, et cetera. So how am I supposed to do? He said, she'll be fine. I'll take care of her. So the next week she went in for a radical mastectomy, and outside the operating room, he said she's going to be a couple of hours, but you'll be around. I said, yeah, I'll be downstairs and walking around. I was sitting there, and he said, my son wanted to know why I didn't give the kid from Yale a penalty for playing with a broken stick. I said, Doc, it's one thing I hate. It's whiny hockey players. So he said, I got to tell you, he said, you really did a great job that day. You saved my son's leg.
No shit.
And I said, I'll tell you what, you take care of her today, we're even.
Yeah, right.
I said, so my statement when I got the college award for contributions, I said, in reality, I did nothing for college hockey. College hockey gave me my wife back.
Wow.
And that's the
Hockey community, man.
Oh, yeah,
It's the
absolutely.
It
best.
all leads
Yep.
back to a rink.
yeah. It comes back.
All does.
Oh yeah, it just and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So we can sit here and talk about, my experiences. You can say you had experience, et cetera. Like I worked with your dad down at West Point, and I know your family, et cetera.
Yeah.
And now I'm working with your uncles and Stevie Riley Jr.
Yeah.
working for me in the Bay State League. And, just come in, do the game. I have standard rules, and Gino from signing.
Oh, yeah.
Come in, show up, shut up, do the game, go home, please.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
it.
That's it.
Have
Keep your
fun.
mouth shut.
Have fun doing it.
Yep.
I don't need, work. I don't need
You don't need all the extra bullshit. Just
none
get
whatsoever.
in, do your job,
Yeah.
and get out.
Yeah, just
The
go
less
in.
phone calls you get because of you, the better.
Yep.
You never want anyone calling because of you.
Yeah, and the thing is, they know. Like I had a coach last spring, who was complaining that the referee called something in the third period in that tournament down at Canton at the Ice House.
Yep.
And he was complaining. I said, I'll tell you what, Coach. If he hadn't called it, he wouldn't work because I was there. I saw the game. I saw
Yeah.
the penalty. It was there. All right. It's not his fault. As I used to say, all I do is call them. I don't do them.
Right.
It's
Right. Always.
So
Get mad at me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Slosh the kid.
Or just like, I didn't score for the other team. I'm not the reason you lost.
Oh, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. You can always kill the penalty or score shorthanded, as I told the coach from Colby in the Bowdoin-Colby game one night. They threw a frozen cow head out in the ice up at Colby. I said, I'm looking down at Green Acres on ice. and frozen cow head. Yeah, the door. I'm giving a penalty to what's his name, Scott. He's the head coach of Merrimack now.
Oh,
Bork.
Bork's great.
He's the
I
assistant-
love Scott.
he's the assistant-
We got to get him on here.
He's
Yeah, great.
the head. Ask him about the cow head. He's the head coach at Colby. And he starts, and I said, excuse me, just for a second. I just want to tell you, it's your first year here. You're woefully overdressed for the NESCAC League. No, the Italian loafers aren't making it.
Did he have the scally on?
No, he didn't.
Oh,
no,
he had
no.
a scally on one night at Merrimack.
Yeah.
First period, you shake the coach's
Yeah,
hand. I go, hey,
yeah.
that nice scally. You're like, well. He comes out for the second period, no scally, right? So he's out on the bench before the teams, and we're standing there. I go, hey, Scott, what happened to the scally? He go, I took a fucking beating.
There you go. So he's down. He's losing to Bowdoin 1-0 up at Colby, and there's like 20 seconds left to go, and I've already given Colby a warning. I had already warned them, and et cetera. And all of a sudden, with 20 seconds left to go, everything's out in the ice. Fruit salad, dinner, refuse, bang, everything. So I've got to give them another penalty.
Yeah, right.
They got 20 seconds to go, and I've got to bench Colby again. And, Scott, you don't have the bees. And I said, bad thing to say. Bad things to say. Here's what we're going to do. And I said, no, you got to. I already given, You got to do it. I said, here's where I am right now. We have 20 seconds left to go in a 1-0 game. I said, I could call it right now because the ice is going to be dangerous for the kids. Safety issues.
Yeah.
Okay. Or I'm going to give you a bench penalty, and you're going to have the ice cleaned and give you time to get your 4 kids over, figure out how to pull the goalie and score a shorthanded goal with 20 seconds left to go. All right? Or it's over right now. It's called felon final jeopardy.
It's called game intelligence right there for the referee, right?
30 seconds, whatever you want to do. We're going to walk, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So you took the penalty. Anyway, they lost the game 1-0. And when I went in the locker room up at Colby, Sid Watson again came in. I want to report. It was the smoke was coming out of his head through his ears. He was so mad at the way they treated the game and the way they acted. But, in terms of, again, a lesson of lifestyle, after my wife's operation at the Beth Israel in February of '97, the day before, I was at UMass Boston on a round table with President Clinton in front of the world for the Boston strategy to reduce violence. And on a Wednesday, I'm in front of the world. I get interviewed by John Dunvan from ABC, and I got this thing, and I'm in front of the world. And the next day, it's just she and I and the doctor at Beth Israel, and nobody else. Wow. I said, 30 seconds, what's more important?
Right.
I said, Clinton hasn't called me back. So, to steal Mike Erizione's line. They said after in '83 out at Eveleth, they said, what did President Carter? He said, President Carter called me 3 years ago. He hasn't called me back, so I use that. I steal Riz's line.
So a frozen cow head, that's got to be the craziest
frozen cow
thing
head
ever thrown on the ice with
Ever
you.
thrown on the ice.
What was the craziest thing you
I've
had?
never seen a frozen cow head.
Well, why you
Craziest
think
thing I've ever seen?
I know right away.
I can't think right now. Yeah.
We used to do the club games down at RISD, Rhode Island School of Design.
Oh, yeah.
And it was my brother Steven, Steve Phillips, and myself.
Yeah.
And we'd rotate. One of us would ref, the other two would line. So the night I'm reffing, over comes a squirrel, dead squirrel.
Okay.
And this thing was huge. It was the biggest squirrel I've ever seen. And it's laying there. And the guy from the rink comes out. They played at Providence.
Okay.
At the Brown. They played at Brown's rink.
Okay.
And the guy comes out and he looks at it and he goes, "What's that?" I go, "I'm pretty sure it's dead." And it wouldn't even fit on his shovel. But that was the weirdest thing.
I had the bat fly around down in San Antonio in the rink.
Yeah.
The kid hit it with a stick and picked it up and off it went. I was like, "That's a bat," and it was like,
that's pretty crazy.
I kind of skated away from that one. And then in the Central League, Corpus Christi, they put like those, what are they called, like skates or something? They were like those little.
Oh,
they look
like a stingray.
Yeah, they look like a little
thing.
stingray.
Yeah.
So they stick them on the glass.
Yeah.
What?
So after the first goal in the Central League that year, like every team had something. Like the Grills, they threw the bananas. Like they had like whatever. Every team had something. And they would throw these stupid things on, and then all like the fish guts and stuff would be all over the ice, come out and scrape it. It was disgusting.
There was some.
Yeah, they had like a.
So you had some crazy shit too.
Yeah. I only did 3 games in that. One was
Central
like bananas.
League was,
one was the Rays. That was gross.
Yeah, I didn't. When I did the 2 Central League games, I did the Tulsa Oilers and the Oak City Thunder. And no, was it the Thunder?
Yeah, the Thunder. Yep.
Yeah, and they didn't throw anything on the ice. They did have a pretty well-endowed woman next to the bench that would jam her assets to the glass when they scored. I think I've told that story before.
Was that the Oilers fan?
That was no. She could have been.
I could
Before
think.
time.
I could think. No, I wouldn't.
Oh, there's plenty of stories, but I want to ask this. So you coached and refereed. Now I coached and refereed.
Yes.
Gino's getting into coaching.
Yep.
Yes.
We have an over-under on what game he's going to get thrown out of.
Okay. I get thrown out of one. 37 years I got thrown out, and the guy who did it, I was the assistant coach at Roxbury Latin. We were playing St. Mark's. My player was in the offensive zone in the act of shooting, and he got taken down from behind. So I said, "That's a penalty shot. Easy." I said, "Why?" Because you don't see many, but when you see it, you know
what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Those jump out.
And I said, "Why no penalty shot?" He wasn't that far in front of him. I said, "That's the point." That's the point.
He doesn't have to
He
be
was
that
in front
far.
of him.
Right.
I said, well, that's bullshit. Bang, he threw me. I said, that's your second mistake. You got to give me a bench
warning
penalty
first, yeah,
You get
bench,
bench
right.
penalty,
Bench
and then you
first.
throw me. It's
Right.
on the second one you throw me. But we were in a tight game at Roxbury Latin with St. Mark's. So when he threw me, he gave me a penalty, bench penalty, and threw me. I said, I'm leaving. I'll leave because we don't need another one. I don't want to. If this
Right.
guy's so quick to do that, okay, bad move on his part. Because every year that he was recommended to work the state tournament that I assigned,
He fell off the
Funny
list
thing,
somehow.
he never got a game.
damn if that didn't happen, as a matter of fact. And there's a reason why, not because so much, but if he was that affected, if he wanted to be that affected in a game, then I wouldn't put him in a tournament game because he'd be bigger than the game.
Right.
And
right.
I didn't want that.
Yeah.
And the one guy I had that was, I emailed. I said never use him again. A guy who got into a game and started mouth. So that's it.
You refereed hockey, refereed football.
Yep.
Umpired baseball.
572 college hockey games refereed, 319 head coach.
Wow.
All right. High school coach from Berwick Academy in 72 to Roxbury Latin, 10 years at Nobles as an assistant, Randolph for 2 and Needham for 1, etc. So, yeah, coaching. Did I have a favorite? What season were we in was my favorite.
All right.
If it was football, I did Division I football, and it was fun to do work in the Yale Bowl or work down at Villanova or down at William and Mary. Great places. Or then up in Maine to do Bowdoin and Colby or Williams and Amherst.
You ever run into my uncle Danny Dearden?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, he still does it. Yeah.
Football.
I did 300. The reason I know how many I did is because my grandfather kept track of all his games. My father kept track of all his games. So I had the opportunity to keep track of all the football, hockey, and baseball. And
That's
softball.
pretty cool. I wish I did that.
And I had books, dates, et cetera, and I can go through the book and the date and remember the game, how much I made, whatever. And over the course of my avocational career, and I see from 72 on, and I had time to do this, between coaching and officiating in football, hockey, baseball, high school and college, softball that I did, and lacrosse that I did, I was involved in over 6,200 games.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun.
That-
It
that's
was,
amazing.
A good shift.
Yeah, it was fun.
Right.
I just...
What did you find was the most difficult sport to officiate?
They each have their nuances. Baseball can be long and dragged out. The last year I did, it was just got too much. I was doing a Northeastern UMass game, and it was 40 degrees out. The wind was blowing 50 miles an hour. I was on the bases. It was 22-2 at the end of the eighth inning, and a kid from Northeastern going in the second base rolled, and he didn't mean to roll. It was just so hard that he bounced and he rolled through the shortstop. Well, the head coach of UMass was a guy named Dick Berquist, and he came out with the arms waving. We call it the flying nun effect, okay, et cetera. And he was a big, tall guy. And so when I saw him I backed off because my grandfather and my father said, never let a guy stand over you. Back off so you're shortened, so he's not looking down at you, he's looking to you, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. And I tell the young referees, don't get up inside.
Right.
Stay away. That's the way you can control. Exactly. So you're going to get somebody killed, and I say, blah, 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 and all the rest of the stuff. And I said, by rights, I should put your ass on the bus right now, but I've been out here for 4 hours, and you're going to stay out here as long as I have to. Okay?
Right.
So I don't care what you say. Okay, you can suck eggs. See you later, et cetera, et cetera. So that was my last college baseball game. So I hung it up after that. But, football is a funny sport because the coaches are volatile. Hockey, I'd go by Jack Parker, and he'd be yapping, and I'd say, fine. And I'd listen to him and then keep skating because you could move.
Right.
You could move away from it.
Right.
You didn't let anybody. I had a coach after over at Harvard, okay, who I was doing the Harvard BU game, and they had Mike Greer is a freshman, and they were loaded.
Oh,
And-
yeah.
And they were playing Harvard, and they were absolutely tuning up Harvard. And the third period, I'm in front of the bench, and I hear off the Harvard bench, "You're a disgrace. You haven't shown up all night." So I said, let it go. I can take that. Whatever. He's getting embarrassed, and they're beaten up. And then the voice went up. So now he's not behind the bench. Now he's on the bench, et cetera, et cetera. So, "Yeah, you." So I turned around and looked at him. He said, and he pointed at me and told me, "Yeah, you." So I backed off, and I said, "Excuse me, you talking to me?" And I looked up at the scoreboard. It said 6-1, outshot 32-16. A lot of that going around here tonight.
Not showing up.
Okay.
It's such a great way to say
That is
fuck
unreal.
you,
Yeah.
but not say
Yeah,
fuck you.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's
That's
what
an
we're trying
art.
to teach all
That
the
is
young
an
guys.
absolute
Yeah.
art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of that going
That's a
around.
That
that
is
night.
brilliant.
So it was also the last game I worked at Harvard, but that was all right. But whatever. Guys, some of those guys, Mike Gilligan would yell and squawk, but then it was over.
Yeah, right.
He'd say, I'd go by the bench up at UVM, and Coach Gilly, who was a good guy, he came down. Mike Gilligan drove down from Burlington to attend my father's wake, and got in the car and drove back.
Wow.
Right? Because
Right.
his
Relationships.
coach. Well,
Yep.
yeah, his coach was a guy named George Keneally,
Okay.
who had played for my father in English High. So it was all in the circle, et
Yep.
cetera. So Gilly drove all the way down from UVM, went through the line, and then got in the car and drove back. So I said, that's the type of guy he is. And some other guys said, geez, I went by the line, was long. I said, yeah, fine. I said, I understand. It was, yeah, whatever, but thank you. I said, some of the coaches are inside of 495, shall we say. I said, I understand. So, football, they could get on you. You had to be rule specific. And the difference between football refereeing and hockey officiating, football officiating is, you're going to do 10 football games. They're 10 hours long. So for a year, you work 10 hours in a Division I football game. Right? Hockey, if you do 25 or 30 games, they're an hour long. But that goes for 6 months.
Right.
Et cetera. So football, they tend to be a little bit more specific.
Makes sense.
And the people that are involved, you get one of the advantages of officiating around here, if the young people officiating take advantage of it, is the opportunity to work.
Right.
There's plenty of games around here, and they need people. So if you don't, you want to know why you're not in Division I? Well, what have you done to earn that?
Yeah.
Have you done
What's your experience?
exactly?
Game count.
Did you have the bag in the car when you get the call from Jack Eder? One Sunday morning, and I got in the fall of '74, and January of '75 on a Saturday, and I had been out the night before, so I had was carrying a load,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. Jack Eder's on the phone, and he assigned the ISL. Mr. Stewart, yes. Mr. Eder, yes. What can I do for you? He said, I need an official at 1:30. I said, I'll be there.
Yep.
And I went out the door in a T-shirt and shorts in January
Yeah.
to BB&M. And I walked in, I was 5 minutes, it was like 25 minutes or 2, and he said, you're late. I said, I stopped at one light, Jack, et cetera, et cetera. But after that, whatever game you want.
Right.
So people said, well, you got games because. No, I got games because I earned it.
Right.
Because I didn't just go on my
Merit.
name. Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked
Oh, you
for
didn't
it.
pick and choose. You
Yeah.
you get
You
told to
didn't
go,
say,
you go.
Oh yeah, I got a dinner plans, or I got this,
No.
I got that. It's like, no, if
if you're gonna
that
do it, do it
opportunity's
right.
there, do it.
Yeah.
Or that's a
You take it.
3-hour ride. It's like, 3-hour ride.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you want the experience, take the experience.
That's where the game is, kid. You want it or
yeah.
not?
Steve Hardy was in charge of the ECAC officiating. Now he and his brother had played at Bowdoin. They were from Waltham. Good guy. Steve was a good guy, and he called me one day, and he said, "I need you to go to Middlebury for me for a JV game on a Friday afternoon." I said, "Okay," and I was working at the court. I just started at the court, so thank God Judge King was a hockey nut, so he whatever. So I said, well, how am I going to work this out? Well, what I did was got a ticket and flew from Boston to Lebanon, New Hampshire. Jackie Daly Jr. was my partner. He was at Dartmouth. He was going to school, working up at Dartmouth. So he picked me up. We went up to the Middlebury and did the JV game, and then drove home. I lost money on the game.
Yeah.
But Steve Hardy, whatever you need. Next year, full schedule.
All right. You made money.
Because, you wanted, I'll do it for you. I was ready to go. The bag was packed. Yeah, I'll go. And
That's a lesson. That's a lesson these kids don't get now.
Well, no, they don't. Because I assigned the Bay State League boys and girls, and I'll get, I said, you got 10 seconds before I'm hanging up, et cetera, et cetera. Do you want to work or not?
Yeah, right.
Period. If you don't want to work, that's fine.
I just need to know.
I just need to know how much you're going to do. If you want to do it or not do it. So bottom line, the way I was taught was if you're going to do it right, or don't do it.
Exactly.
If you want to go, have your bag in the car. When they call, go. That's it.
It's hockey season.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's a the things that make athletes great, and I've learned this out of all the years that I coached and refereed, and the people I ran into. I said the ongoing, the overriding traits of great athletes who are good athletes are work ethic, discipline, goal orientation, sacrifice, respect, and commitment. I said that separates you from them.
Right.
You want to know why he is? Because I said, you practice 6 months a year to play 20 hours. What do you do the rest of the time?
Right.
How hard do you work in it? Do you lifting? Are you running? Are you working on your shot? Are you doing this? What are you doing on your own? Do you pay the price? Or you just show up on game day? I said, nobody's that good. Even the best guys didn't.
Yep.
They worked at it. And that's a lesson. The kids now, unfortunately, now they're cookie cutter. Kids now think I'm going to skate from 9 to 10 and that's it. I'm not going to do anything after that. Well, maybe you should. Maybe you should think about it. And I'm going to get a scholarship. Okay. And if you don't,
then what?
What are you going to do?
I just walked in. I got a text. We got a tournament going on this weekend. Kid's going to make probably, I don't know, $180 maybe, close to $200. And, less than about 45-minute drive. He goes, do you have more games at that rink? That's about close to an hour drive. I think it might have been like round trip. And I go, no. So I just took him right out.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you shitting me?
I'd go from, of course, what I did, because it was spread out. But I would go from doing a game up at Haverhill, or doing a game up in North Shore in Lynn at the time, and then get down and do a couple of games at Habermock.
Yeah.
Have to go over the bridge. That's what you did because
that's where I took the kid out. It was Pembroke.
That's what you did. If you wanted to do it, I felt a special burden, kind of a special burden, because I didn't want people to say it's because of.
I felt the same way growing up.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, you had
I
a
was
similar
18,
situation.
19 years old doing junior hockey, lining, whatever, doing this, doing that, refereeing. Yeah. And everyone's like, how come he has the bands on? I was like, well, I started at 15, 16 years old with the bands on. I'm 19 now.
Yeah.
Right? That's 3 years of fucking experience. And I never said no to an assignment. When Jimmy Doyle called and said, hey, you got to go do the girls' JV and then go do the girls' varsity.
Yeah.
Right? Or, hey, you and Ryan Sweeney are going to be in Watertown for a week and a half during Christmas break, freezing your fucking balls off and doing JV hockey. And that's what we did. And then next thing you know, the following year, what we got? We got the varsity games and, you start getting your stuff, right? But you pay the price.
The first game I ever officiated wasn't a hockey game. It was a football game, okay? And it was my dad assigned the officials, had people working out. It was the Quonset Marine football team, Quonset, Rhode Island, and the Norfolk Prison Colony.
The longest yard.
It was for a plate of beans,
like the movie.
for a plate of beans and hot dogs at Norfolk Prison, and that's what I got paid. I was 15, and my father used to ask.
Going to a prison?
Yeah, we did. My father.
It's like me doing a men's league game.
That's awesome.
There was a guy. there was a guy that was in charge of inmate activities, okay, who had played for my father at UMass at Fort Devens after the war. And he was in charge of the prison. So he brought English high school to Norfolk to play baseball and football. They would play against the prison teams. So Willie McDonough wrote about it. He said, we went from Groton School to Norfolk. And all your father did was say, you decide which way you want to go. You want to go to Norfolk, you want to go to Groton School, one way or the other. Because English played Groton, and they also played Norfolk. I was down there one day. I was a bat boy. I was 10, 1960. My father had a kid named Bobby Ginden, who was a big, athletic Adonis right hitter. He was a lefty. And Lefty Gilday, who was a bank robber from Mission Hill, who could have been a good baseball player, but he decided he wanted to go to State U, not the University of. All right? All right. He threw Bobby Ginden a fastball. And Bobby Ginden hit the ball probably about 500 feet because he hit it over the wall at Norfolk Prison. Never forget it. He hit the ball over the wall. And the next time he got up, the word got out, and all the prisoners were down. They wanted Lefty Gilday to throw him another one. They wanted to see. And, of course, the greatest line I heard ever in a prison, when he hit the ball over the fence, one of the guys says, I'll get it. Okay?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Fucking great.
But
That's awesome.
I'm on the bus at UMass Boston, and we're going away. I don't know where we were going, but it was right in January of '88, and it was right after my dad died. And I introduced myself to the bus driver, and he said, geez, was your father a coach? And I said, yes, he was. He said, he just passed. I said, yes, he did. He said, he was a great friend of my father's. I said, what was your father's name? John O'Toole. I said, what did your father do for a living? He said, he sold Toyotas in Watertown. I said, I knew your dad. And he said, did you buy a car from him? I said, no, I refereed a football game with him. John O'Toole was doing 20 years for manslaughter, and he refereed the game with me and my dad. All right?
Wow.
In 1965. And the next week, which tells a lot about my father's character and his commitment and dedication and sacrifice and being part of everything, he refereed the Penn State-Syracuse game. All right, up at Syracuse, and I was the ball boy. I was standing next to Ben Schwartzwalder, who was the head coach at Syracuse, and Larry Zonka ran me over. All right, and I said, if I can get Larry Zonka, he was a sophomore fullback for Syracuse.
Wow.
And I said, and my dad worked as hard in the Syracuse-Penn State game as he did in the Norfolk game.
Yep.
Because there was no difference. It was the commitment to the sport. Those are the lessons that I was taught, that I try to teach to the guys working for me, just by talking to them, to the young referees. Right. What do you want to get out of it? Why are you here? Oh, the money. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what we say to the kids, whether it's a mic game or a pro game, approach it the same way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you never get in trouble.
Absolutely not.
If you're working your ass off, you never get in trouble.
And then those parents and the coaches don't give you shit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't walk into the locker room, drop the bag, and say, gee, I got a game next week. No, it's this game.
Today.
This game.
Most important game.
The biggest one is the one you're going to do next.
And whether or not it's big to you in the sense of what level it is, it's the biggest game to those people playing, whether they're 10 or 22 or 32. It doesn't matter.
In football, when I was the referee, my last 10 years or so, I was the white hat, the referee. So I did the coin toss and introduction to captains, etc. So I used to say to the kids when they'd come out, I said, gentlemen, this is the greatest game being played in America today. Do you know why? And they'd look at each other, and I said, no. I said, because you're playing in it.
Yeah.
And I only work great games. You're a great captain, we'll be great officials. If we have a problem, we're going to you to solve it. And if they don't listen to you, then we're going to get involved. But you don't want us involved because nobody passes the 15-yard IQ test. Okay, et cetera, et cetera. So we understand each other? Yes. And now the kids bonded, et cetera. And, my great stories from refereeing in the city of Boston, I was down in Atlantic City, and I put a coin in and hit for a lot of silver dollars or whatever. And I'd go when I was refereeing, I'd toss the silver dollar. But before I did, I'd ask the kids, you know who this is? Do you know who this is? And the kids say, yeah, that's Eisenhower, that's Kennedy or whatever, et cetera. And if they did, I'd give them the coin after the coin toss. And then, like for a couple of years, I couldn't give a coin away. Nobody knew who it was. And I said, the last coin I gave away was a kid. He was a little African-American kid. He looked at the coin. He said, yeah, some old dead white guy.
And you gave him that coin.
I gave him the coin. So
we used to use a toonie. I used to use a toonie in lacrosse.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the coin flip, and
Yeah.
I'd tell him, you
Oh,
know,
yeah, you
Queen
become
Mary was
like-
on one side and the loon was on the other.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
both looked similar.
Yeah.
And I'd flip it away. But before we end, coaching or refereeing, which one did you enjoy more?
What was?
And I know it's a tough question because I loved coaching. I also loved refereeing. But I know that there's different parts about each one of
yeah.
them, or
I loved to officiate. It was fun. It was a workout. Snooks Kelly taught me one day about the difference between. He said you do both and you're doing well at it, etc. He said. In fact, a great Snooks Kelly story. We were down. My wife was a flight attendant, as I said, and we used to pass ride for $5 on Eastern Airlines. So we're down at the coaches convention, and I have the kids and my wife, and we're dressed up in a shirt and tie, and the kids are all dressed up. And we were last on the plane because we went on space available, so we got seats in first class. and from the back of the plane, when I got on the plane and waved to everybody, and Snooks yelled out, "Hey, Stu! Before you married her, you had no class. Now you got first class." he said, you know, it just. He said it's the human contact with the kids.
Yep.
You know, when I see a kid like Freddie Cooley, who played for me, who to see him graduate, and to hear the kids that played with me for me, and the lessons that like Mark Malika out in California, or this one, or the other kids, Bubba McNeese. You know, the lessons I didn't know. I don't know what I teach and what I didn't teach.
Right.
What I imparted, the lessons I imparted, or not. But to see them come back, like Chris Blaine, for instance, was probably the best player I ever coached, the head coach of Franklin High.
Okay.
Great guy.
Great kid. Oh, yeah, absolutely professional. So to listen to him coach, I said, you know, he got the lessons I taught because I was taught them, so I passed them on. So I paid it forward. So it's
awesome.
Coaching is hockey. You do 1,000 games, you're going to have 2 or 3 good ones. You know, but it's the coaching. I think the contact with the kids. And the eyes and the lessons you teach that stays with you.
And it goes forward beyond just that game when you coach.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I run into kids I coached, you know, whether they were 5, I coached my daughter, mostly hockey, my daughter, but like softball, coached my oldest daughter, Lexi, I coached my youngest daughter, Diana, in all these sports. And you make those connections and, you know, I have kids that still call me coach, just like they still call you coach.
Yeah.
And you're like, I was a coach, I coached the JV team at there for about 10, 12 years. And I have kids that played for me there. And when they see me, they're 25, 26.
Yeah.
Hey, coach, what's going on?
Right.
And that, I think, is that piece of coaching that is just so powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're affecting kids. And unfortunately, there's some coaches that affect kids the wrong way.
Ooh,
but
you got that right.
But that's the power of coaching, is that it goes beyond just that game. And but again, officiating. I mean, it's if you're a ref, you're a ref, and you love it. You know.
I did a game. I remember I did a Babson Oswego NCAA series over at Babson, and we had an overtime night. The first Friday night game, and then the second night we had an overtime. And then we had to do a mini game, and then we had to do an overtime in the mini game, et cetera, et cetera. So we were out on the ice, and it went almost 5 hours, everything all together, and finally Oswego beat Babson. And I went home, and I got home, and I had to take another shower just because I was so exhausted afterwards, just to loosen up. And there was nobody there to talk about it. I was just me late at night.
Yeah.
There was nobody there, et cetera. Where hockey, I would have the kids calling, et cetera, running into the kids the next day. I knew I did a good job because Donnie Younger was their coach at Oswego, and again, down at the coaches committee, convention. He was talking about officiating. He said, I don't know who did the game, but the guys up in Boston that did our game against Babson, they were great. I said, thank you. I said, it was me, et cetera, et cetera. This is the best game. It's the one nobody remembers who did it.
Exactly.
So,
That's what you want.
That's awesome. Well, we thank you very
run out
much
of
for
time.
coming
Oh,
on.
it's great. Thank me.
I mean-
flap my gums all night.
Well,
No.
you told the story when you walked in. I would love that to get on the podcast. The one, the game you did was at Harvard, and was it when he first walked in? He told the story about coming in, Billy Stewart on the back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm doing the game, and I'm doing the Harvard game again. And kid off the Harvard bench said, "Hey, Mr. Stewart, you related to the NHL guy?" And I kind of looked over my shoulder and just said, "Yeah, that's my brother." And the next thing I hear from the kid is, "What happened to you?" So I looked at him. I said, "What happened to me? Why am I here with you and not doing the pros like my brother? I like working with the underprivileged." Okay. Doesn't he get, later on in the game, doesn't he get roofed? And damn, didn't I miss it. Okay. Okay. So he's flat on his back behind the net. And I skated up and put my arms on the net. And I'm looking down at him. At the same time, I'm looking at the late Jackie Corain, who was the manager of the rink at Watson Arena at Harvard. And he's giving me the whatever look. And I'm giving him the whatever look. And we look down at the kid. And the kid said, "You going to call anything?" I said, "No, my brother would have." See you later.
Thanks for coming.
You know what they don't, again, what they didn't realize, I'm working at Dorchester Court. I'm working with gang kids. I'm out in the street at night, and I'm going to listen to you whine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Please. You serve cheese with that wine? Please. So, anyway.
My father used to always, that was a great line.
Yeah. We serve a cheese.
That's awesome.
Anyway, it's a great avocation.
Yeah.
I recommend it to anybody. Just go in with the right idea.
Yeah.
You guys both had a sniff.
Mm-hmm.
You both got you were close.
Yep.
You tried.
I was there for a week.
Yeah. You tried.
Hey, it was a good journey. It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Like you said, like the where the road takes you. You know.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll be
Did
honest too.
you ever go to Arthur Bryant's Wings and Ribs in Kansas City?
No, never made it there.
Oh, okay.
Been to Topeka, Kansas, but
Okay, all right. I've been there too. Washburn University at Topeka, Kansas.
Yep.
And there's a story about that too. I had a kid who said to me at Dorchester Court, he was one of the Columbia Point dogs, who said to me one day, I surrendered him every time he showed up late. I'd issue him a surrender notice. He was a big drug dealer.
Yep.
Out of Columbia Point. And so I'd surrender him, and he'd get an attorney. He paid his private attorney. He had her on retainer.
Right.
So it was costing them money.
Right.
So they told me to stop doing it, et cetera, et cetera. So when he did, he poked me in the chest at Dorchester Court, and he said, "You have to be good to get me." And I'm ready to retire right there because I'm going to rip his lips off. Okay, all right. So that was on a Thursday. Friday morning, I get a call. "Bill Stewart?" "Yes." "Probation?" "Yes." He said, "You don't know who this is?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "Read the paper tomorrow." I said, "Why?" He said, "I saw what happened in the lobby of the court yesterday. Read the paper tomorrow." Bang! Don't they do a federal sweep and take this kid out?
No
Okay,
shit.
yeah. So he ends up getting 20 years, and he starts his bid in Leavenworth, in Kansas. Don't I get hired by the Justice Department to speak for the in Topeka, Kansas, at Washburn University? So if you go from Kansas City to Topeka, what's off the highway? Leavenworth.
Leavenworth.
Yeah.
So I pulled into Leavenworth. I called the captain of the guard. I said, "Hey, you got him there?" I said, "Yeah, get him down in the visitor's room." I was his probation officer at Boston. I got something I want to say to him, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm sitting in the room. He walks in. He says, I said, "Remember when you said you have to be good to get me? I was effing better." I said, "By the time you get out, I'm going to be sitting on the beach, chilling out and browning down, dog." Okay, et cetera, et cetera. He got on the phone. I had the kid convinced that I paid my own way to go to Kansas.
Just to
Just to say that.
International, give him the international icing call. Boom. So he three-wayed home, and the kids from Columbia Point came in and said, "Were you in Kansas?" I said, "Yep." He said, "You're crazy." I said, "It's catchy, so stay away from it."
I love it.
So
That's a good one to end on right there.
There you go.
Well, I mean, we could do this
I can
all
do
night.
this all night.
I mean, and I'll be honest. One of my dreams growing up was to play college hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we all dream about being in the NHL, but as a freshman in college, I was a $135, dripping wet. And the first kid I met was Jamie Evans.
Yeah.
In the weight room, shirtless, curling.
Ripped.
Now Jamie was built like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, he was just jacked.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, you play football?" He goes, "No, I'm the captain of the hockey team." Yeah. And right there, I went, "I'm fucked." But
When he got to Johnstown,
Yeah.
one of the Hanson brothers was his coach, all right, and said, Jamie said, "Yeah, I'm gonna win." He said, "You should have been a defenseman." He said, "Coach Stewart I tried to make him a defenseman, and he whined because he wanted to score goals." I said it was about him scoring rather than playing the game.
Yeah.
So he fought me on defense. So I just said, "Okay, just go up front, be Freddie's wing, and shut up." Which he did.
Not a bad line mate to have.
It wasn't bad. Well,
Yeah.
Richie Morahan had 3 goals at Kimberley Union when he graduated after playing with Freddie for 4 years. He was the leading scorer in Curry history. At the time, I said, "Why?" Because he was smart enough to give Freddie the puck and go to the net.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep.
I said Richie was 100. I think he had 166 points when he graduated.
Wow.
There was a big return on your dividend from
Kimberley Union.
163 better.
Wow.
Whatever.
Well, yeah. My point was, I wouldn't have played college hockey if it wasn't for you.
Yeah, thank you.
So that, I mean, right there, aside from the refereeing and all the help you've given me over the years, that you allowed me to fulfill a dream of playing college hockey. That's,
thank you.
Cool.
Seriously, it's very cool.
And that was fun watching. To watch guys get a chance to play college hockey.
Yeah.
Kevin Joyce has said that to me. He said, "You gave me a chance to play college hockey." I said, "Well, you earned it. You earned by your work ethic, etc." So unfortunately at his funeral, his wake, when I went through the line with his mother, and who was lovely people, she and her husband, and the dad had passed too. So the mother said, "Coach, you did so much for me. You thanked him." And again, it was a 1 year, one and done. And all I could think of, the only thing I could say, obviously I was sorry that he had passed because he was such a great kid.
Yep.
But I thanked her for letting me coach her son. I said, "You let me coach your son. Thank you." So I was better for having him on my hockey team.
Yep.
So
I'll never, I mean, he was one of my favorite people.
Yeah,
I mean,
kid.
not just in college.
Yeah.
And the hardest hit I ever took was from him in the purple and white game. Coming through center ice, I had my head down. He stepped up, man.
Boom.
I went flying.
Yeah.
But I remember the wake, and I went with Brian Horan, who played at Suffolk.
Yeah. Great kid.
Yeah, awesome guy. Yeah. And, we were in the line forever. But afterwards, all those kids that, played at Curry at that time frame were there.
Yeah.
And, it just showed that college hockey and your teammates and that connection, that bond you make, it lasts forever. It's not, and I've had, Ralphie has come to comedy shows. Johnny Langone has come to comedy shows. Like,
he's another kid
it's
that
kind of neat. Yes, he came in with my year. Rhino, Sean Ryan, me, Langone. But, those connections.
The best team I ever coached was that year, the group that won 26-2.
Yeah,
and all I heard back from them was, "If you were here, we would have won." Blah blah blah.
Well, that was funny. Is we played UMass Dartmouth, who we destroyed like 2 weeks earlier. Played them in the tournament, and it was basically if we won, we were going in the national tournament, and UMass we were looking beyond them.
Yeah.
And UMass Dartmouth ended up beating us. They had no business beating us.
No.
I didn't play that game. I was up watching in the stands, and it was just
shots?
I was collecting shots. Actually, you know what? I think I did because I went for television sportscast. I think I was doing the game.
Video?
I was doing the
play-by-play?
I was doing the color for the guy who did the play-by-play. But that was that team. Like I said, that was your team, and
Best team I never coached.
Yeah, it really was.
It was.
It was the best team you'd ever coached.
But
And
you know, the fact that Kevin stayed, and you know, Frankie Armstrong and Jamie, who was Jamie then, now he's
Yeah.
Jim. Now he's Jim. But some of the other kids like Sean Ryan,
yeah, Rhino. Yep.
the alumni games.
Yeah.
It's good to see him.
Yeah.
Kevin Duff finally got in the Hall
Kevin
of Fame,
Duff,
and
finally.
yeah.
Well deserved.
And I had to explain to him. I said, you know, everybody knew who Freddie Hooley was. He walked in, everybody knew who he was.
Yep.
And I think the goal that was after I left was they were going to bury Freddie to hide him. I said, how do you bury somebody who's got 70 points a year? You can't do it.
No.
Let him dictate, because they're going to dictate because they're afraid of him.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. So, in that line, Freddie would go. Richie would get Freddie the puck. Richie Morahan would get. But Kevin Duff, as I said, Kevin Duff was. I said, you're the last guy out of the zone. Turn the lights off and lock the door. All right, et cetera. And
Yeah.
what he did, he picked up the slack for everybody. He
Yep.
should have been in the Hall of Fame a lot
Earlier than he was. Yeah.
And I said that. And he's there.
Yeah.
He well deserved, and he earned it. So.
I think a great tribute to you as the coach is when I came in as a freshman, I was a nobody, and the Jamie Evans, the Freddies, the Frank Armstrong, all treated everyone right. Now I know we got the Mohawks, and matter of fact, Greg Spagnoletti gave me mine. He was my Spags.
Yeah. I just went through Waterbury, Connecticut, coming back from Virginia.
Yeah.
And I think of the Spags.
I went
the older
down.
brother was a goalie.
Yes.
At St. Lawrence when
Yep.
I was refereeing.
Okay.
So, and he had played at Westminster. So I busted his chops on his referee because I got Chris, I got Mark.
Yeah.
I said spaghetti 1, spaghetti 2.
Yeah.
Et cetera. But you could do
Spags was great. He was my RA.
Yeah.
And of course he was in I think it was the North Tower on 9/11.
yeah.
But I went down to the memorial and I found his name
Yeah.
on the memorial, which was kind of cool. I mean, but we had the Mohawks and we had the typical college hockey bullshit, right? That you hate. But those kids treated everyone right. And I'll never forget Jamie Evans, captain.
Yeah.
The first night before practice, you go around, you collect all the freshmen, you go and get them all banged up, and then the next day you have
We wore
practice
diapers,
at 6,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
It was fucking brutal.
I had a test the next day in I forget, it was one of the science classes, and I'm in my dorm room studying, and I didn't drink back then. I didn't start drinking until I was 21, and then I made up for it over the
I
next
believe
10
that
years.
too.
But
Yeah.
but
I got a bridge in Brooklyn you can buy.
no, I'm serious. I'm serious. And I'm sitting
Okay.
studying at my dorm, and the door whips open, and Jamie grabs me, and he looks at the book, and he knew I was a student too, and he looked at the book, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I got a big test tomorrow," and he goes, "You do?" I go, I do, and it wasn't like and he goes, "All right, you're off the hook. If anyone says anything, I couldn't find you," and he left.
Yeah.
But that was the kind of kids that you brought in to play, and that's a tribute to who you were as a coach. I mean,
Pretty
those guys were top notch.
I had Eddie, his older brother. Eddie was one of the foundations of the Curry program because he stayed with me for 4 years, and he came in and he didn't know what he was going to get. And Eddie, his older brother, was the type of kid that in practice I used to get involved, and what I'd do is, we'd run a drill, and Eddie was playing defense, and I'd punch him. Boom! I give him a cross check right in the head. Just blah, blah, blah. And I used to aggravate him, drive him crazy. And he'd get up close, and he'd get in my grill and whatever. I said, go ahead, give me an opportunity. He was my shadow for 4 years. And Eddie Evans and subsequently his brother Eric, who played goalie for me for a year, and then James, who came in. But the fact that we had the three brothers that's a foundation.
Yeah.
That's what you build programs.
Yeah.
Because they brought people from Beverly.
Yep. Well, I joke and say back in the day, now Curry, a couple of years ago, I was doing a game for your dad at Curry. One kid from Mass.
Yeah.
One kid from Massachusetts. Everyone was from everywhere. They had Sweden. They had like different countries. And I joked and said, back in the day, our international students were from Connecticut and one kid from Maine. That was it. That was our international students.
We went to play Villanova, and Villanova wanted the roster. So, and the head coach of Villanova was kind of a stuffed shirt. He was a big feeling guy. I'm a great coach, and they were awful. but he was a great coach. And so he said, "Where are you getting your kids?" So I put the roster, and I had kids from Honolulu, from Beijing. I said, "This is an international. We run an international program because we have the learning disability program, et cetera." Well, they're all special needs. Like the coach of Stonehill at the time, Dennis Chigasola, told me, "Your kids are all dumb because they're all special needs kids." I said, "Excuse me? Excuse me?" Like Hooley was Fred.
Yeah.
I said, "Do you know Thomas Edison had a learning disability? Okay, just so you know, et cetera, et cetera." So,
And Curry was one of the first colleges to have a PAL program. That was not a normal thing for all the colleges to have at that time because we're going way back now.
the difference for me was when I left Tufts, where I had 4 chemical and engineering majors and 2 hours of practice a week, and I'd walk in the room and put something up on the board as everybody, and they'd go, "Yeah, they understood it," because they were all brilliant.
Yeah.
And then I'd go to Curry, and half the team was dyslexic, so I'd put the forecheck up and then flip it over backwards.
That's the best.
But the kids were, they say, nobody can see your disability. You've got a learning disability. You don't have a Band-Aid on your head. Okay?
Right.
Okay, it's only a disability if you want it to be. All right. So again, using a kid like Freddie Hooley, who was just educationally disadvantaged, he had to struggle to learn. But on the buses, when we were riding back, what would take you 20 seconds to read would take him 2 hours.
Right.
But he'd read it. He stayed with it. And that was his commitment, because I said, "Freddie, I need you to pass your grades. I need you in your programs, et cetera." And okay, coach, and he went right down the numbers. So that's why I said I was able to say the greatest thing I ever saw him do was graduate.
Yeah.
And the goals he scored, he made, great players make great coaches. So I yelled at him. We were playing Amherst. We were 5-5 with 30 seconds left. He's steaming up through center right now. This kid had Popeye forearms. He's the only kid I bought. He had Titans. Everybody else on the team had Christians.
Yeah.
Because Freddie was a Christian that'd snap it.
Yeah, right.
Slap shot. So I yelled, "Dump." Doesn't he blow the puck by the Amherst goalie?
And score.
And score. Finally, Curry 6 and
Dump it.
Amherst 5.
Thanks for
And
coming.
Jackie Arena looked at me and I said,
I told him to dump it.
I said, "Great coaches, dump it." So he did, right on the goalie, and blew it by him. So
That's
when
awesome.
My father was there with us, and he said, he kind of rolled his eyes. He said, "Whoa." I said, "Yes, Dad, whoa." So anyway,
great.
that's it, boys.
Great stuff.
Well, this was great.
Yeah. Great stuff.
Thank you very much.
Do
Well,
this.
thanks for having me.
Could do this all night.
Rouse, thanks for having me.
Stu, you're the best.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks for putting
gonna.
up.
That's
Back.
Josh Dolan, our producer over here.
Josh, how'd we do? All right?
Excellent.
Awesome.
Not
Well,
enough anyway.
we
This might be a record
Might
for
be
the longest
this might be
ending,
this
'Cause
is
we try to
well
kick
yeah
it
the
out.
endings always go a little
because
long.
we always try to stop it, and then like this
then it
this
keeps
happens
going.
and keeps going. So
yeah.
yeah,
We might have
this might be the
a
record.
double episode. And I'll tell you what,
If my brother would say, "I was better."
I was just gonna say, I think this one went better.
I definitely said a lot more words.
Yeah, you got more in this time. Absolutely.
See the difference. This has been just a great experience from when I was 7 or 8.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yep.
Through all the years that I did it, travel with him, the people I met, and the coach, and hey,
Great stuff.
Great shift.
yeah.
It
Just,
is a
it's
great
small
shift.
world, the oncologist. Who's,
Yeah.
Connect those dots, will you?
And you're our first guest that's doing a mic drop and walking off. You're the first guest to do a mic drop and just walk off. I love it. Usually they stay till we shut it down.
Wonderful.
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
Bye.
You're good.
Aloha.
As you would-
I'll be on Route 1.
As you would say to a player or coach, you're dismissed. Right. I think you just gave us a blessing. Some other language. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for episode 20 of Chirping Zebras with Bill Stewart. Want to remind everyone, July 12th, we will be doing a live taping at China Blossom at Wicked Funny Comedy Club. Huge comedy show. Tony V, Paul Nardizzi, Josh Dolan, myself. You'll be there.
I'm going to be there.
Todd Angeli will be there singing the anthem. We have John Carter of the Bruins going to be a guest. And we have Mike Shue coming in from the Pike. Worcester.
Oh, Mike Shue's coming?
Mike Shue's coming. He'll be making an appearance.
Watch the show.
We're going to have a blast July 12th. Want to thank our sponsor, the Referees Crease, as always, our title sponsor, and also AOA Studios. And Josh and Billy are in the background talking as we go.
This has been the most epic wrap-up in
Ever.
Zebras.
This is the longest
in the
ever.
20 Zebra show history.
In the 20 Zebra show history, this is the longest goodbye.
I hate goodbyes.
But July 12th, join us. And want to thank AOA Studios up here in Beverly for doing such a great job and producing our little zebra show here. And we always want to remind you, find us on the social medias, the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the TikTok.
The TikTok.
Find us on the TikTok. And also like and subscribe on YouTube.
We need them.
Like and subscribe on YouTube. And we will see you here next time on the Chirping Zebras podcast.